In 2024, I scored a bunch of really cool items for my vintage TMNT collection at toy fairs, and those finds were captured in my toy hunt vlogs. But as always, there's been online purchases and there's been pickups from fellow collectors that weren't captured on video. So in today's episode, we're doing a roundup of all the latest vintage TMNT gems that I've added to my collection. What's going on, guys? I appreciate you tuning in to today's episode. Like I mentioned at the top, today I'm sharing with you my most recent batch of vintage TMNT action figure pickups, starting with an absolute beauty. If you caught my recent live stream with Matt from Keep On Collecting, our New Year Top 5 stream, where we run down our favourite pickups of the year, this one was pretty high on that list, and I'm talking about the 1990 Mega Mutant Needle Nose. I love this thing. It was a very, very generous gift from a good mate, Enzo, making it all the more special. And Needle Nose is amazing. This mutant military mosquito with a really cool sculpt, colors that pop, and some incredible details. We start with that wicked head sculpt with the jagged needle nose, those bloodshot eyes, and the crew cut, which dials up that military aesthetic. And the more you look at Needle Nose, the more details you notice. His torso and legs are covered in cuts and scars and stitches and other battle damage. And he's got some really cool accessories and little details. He's got a giant tongue for a seat with armrests made from these little mosquitoes. He's got a windshield with bullet holes on it and a radar dish, and he's armed to the teeth. He's got a little gun that rotates on his tail. He's got missiles strapped to his front legs, and he's wielding this enormous machine gun, and his wings are made from like a really cool semi-transparent lilac color. And overall, it's just early 90s Playmates perfection, this oversized mutant mosquito that displays great alongside his arch nemesis, the villainous Mega Mutant Killer Bee.
It's the foot soldier riding Killer Bee, Shredder's gigantic Mega Mutant. They're buzzing off with a stolen top secret isotope. How will the Turtles ever stop them?
You're asking me?
With Needle Nose, the Turtles' own Mega Mutant, the psychotic Killer Bee attacks, but Needle Nose outmaneuvers him. The foot fingers fumble it away, and the isotope is safe.
I told him not to bug me.
So again, I've just got to give a really big shout out to Enzo. I can't thank you enough, mate. This is so very much appreciated, and it's going to take pride of place in my collection alongside Killer Bee. There was actually an unreleased concept for a third Mega Mutant, Army Ant, that was never produced back in the day, and it's been brought to life by Treasure Monster Toys. So it's going to be really cool to see Army Ant make it to production after all these years and be united with his buddies Needle Nose and Killer Bee, and I can't wait to see Army Ant in the flesh, so stay tuned for that one. Next we go to the regular scaled TMNT figures, starting with Toon Don, released in 1992. This is my second figure in my collection in the Toon line. And these figures were designed to break from the more comic-inspired face sculpts of the original 1988 figures and represent the Turtles more so as they appeared in the animated series. And these figures are pretty cool. It feels like Playmates targeted a slightly younger demographic with these figures, with the sort of cartoony style, the shiny pearlescent finish, and the wacky play features like the spinning bandana on Donnie here. And Toon Don came with both of his bow staff, and unfortunately he can't store the second one on his back because Playmates ditched the belts with the Toon line. The belts are actually just sculpted and painted on, but it's still cool that he's got both of those. He's also got this awesome little pizza disc, and probably my favorite accessory that came with the Toon line, that's these little turtle communicators with really cool little sculpted details and decals on there depicting April on the turtle communicator. So Toon Don is just missing his lenticular Toon TV accessory, so I'll keep an eye out for that. But all in all, I'm really enjoying the Toon line. I really like the pearlescent finish, and the color-coded weapons is also a really cool little detail, so I'll definitely be on the lookout for more of these Toon Turtle figures.
Sounds like fun!
Yeah, dude! We had ice cream and jelly pizza!
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles!
Toon Turtles!
Then we go to a figure from a subline that's really grown on me over the years, the head-dropping Turtles with Head Drop and Raph. And this head-dropping feature is just such an ingenious play feature for a Ninja Turtle figure.
God, I love being a turtle!
The play feature still works, which is really cool, and the figure's in awesome condition and comes complete with all of his accessories. The head drop and Raph came with these really unique Psy accessories. They're called Scorpion Psys on the card back, which is kind of interesting considering he came with a belt designed to store the original Psy accessory, and he also came with 2 other really cool weapons. He came with this really interesting periscope accessory. All of the head droppers came with different scopes, designed to obviously use while they're in head dropping mode, and also the really cool sewer lid shield. And again, all of the head droppers came with some sort of shield to sit on their head and protect their head while it's dropped down into the body. And head drop and Raph came with the soda pop shield, which is really cool. So definitely stoked to have another head dropper in the collection. I've got all of the figures from this line. I just need to keep an eye out for a few more accessories, and I think a couple of belts to complete the other figures in the line. So super stoked to have head drop and Raph in the collection. Then we have an upgrade of one of my favourite figures in my vintage TMNT collection, the 1993 Universal Monsters Leo as the Wolfman. Now this figure didn't come with any accessories, but he's in much nicer condition than the version of this figure that I already had. Most notably, that bandana is intact. I don't know what it is about this figure, but more often than not when I find it, the knot of that bandana is completely snapped off, as is the case with the version that I already had. Also, the glow-in-the-dark paint of the shirt is in much nicer condition than the version I already had. It's just a really cool figure. I love the sort of canine feet, the ripped shirt exposing the shell at the back. That glow-in-the-dark paint is a really cool feature on all of these Universal Monster crossover figures, and he's going to look really cool on display when I match him up with the bony katana accessory that I already have with my kind of rough Leo as the Wolfman. And then I've just got to keep an eye out for a few more of the accessories to get Wolfman Leo a little bit closer to completion. So super stoked to have an upgraded version of Leo as the Wolfman now in the collection. Next up, I've got a nice set of complete figures from a subline I've not really spoken much about previously on the channel, and that's the Rock and Roll Turtles, which I picked up from Tony B from Uncle T's Toys. Now, I've mentioned previously that with so many gimmicky themed sets of turtles in the vintage TMNT line, like, you know, Sewer Sports Turtles and Wild West Turtles and Bodacious Birthday Turtles, it gets pretty silly even for a 90s toy line, and there's definitely some fatigue about all of these Turtles figures in terms of my experience of collecting vintage TMNT figures. Some of the sublines of Turtles I'm more enthusiastic about than others. But I gotta say, having these Rock and Roll Turtles in hand, I've got to admit, I really like them. There's just so much cool detail and character to them. So we start with classic Rocker Leo. He's got this awesome patterned bandana underneath his trademark blue bandana. He's got the black leather vest with the studded rock and roll lettering on the back. And then he's got these awesome denim jeans which have this kind of thatched sculpted pattern to it, paired with this incredible paint deco that just absolutely nails denim jeans on this figure. This figure is awesome. And then he's got those black leather boots with painted buckle details. He's got the Turtle Rocks t-shirt underneath the vest, and then he's got a really cool sculpted and painted peace sign belt buckle. It's interesting. Right across the vintage TMNT line, there's lots of examples of unpainted details, but this figure, like, no sculpted details went without painting, and that really is sort of a common theme of this rock and roll line. It's actually really cool to see. As for accessories, Leo's got the turtle shell textured guitar. He's got these twin katanas with guitar necks in place of the blades. And then he's got 2 of these little record discs. Most of the Rock and Roll Turtles came with these little record discs that have sort of detailed lettering on them, like, you know, the names of the songs, Sewer Love in the case of classic Rocker Leo. Just a really cool figure with no shortage of painted and sculpted details. Then we've got Punker Don, who might be even cooler. Punker Don's got the full Sex Pistols vibe going on. He's got the ripped leather jacket exposing the turtle shell at the back. It's got metallic painted zipper details. He's got the fingerless glove, he's got the spiked bracelet, and then he's got this intricately sculpted chain and lock over his back. He's got a really cool chain around his neck with what looks like a turtle skull, and then we get to that orange mohawk, which in my opinion has to be the only acceptable use of hair on a TMNT figure. I think this orange mohawk looks sick, but I gotta be honest, when I see the more modern TMNT crossovers with the Ghostbusters and WWE and even the Turtles of Grayskull figures, whenever I see a turtle with hair, it just looks all wrong. But for some reason, Donnie's pulling off the orange mohawk. I think it looks sick. And then accessories wise, Donnie's got the bright yellow keytar, which looks straight out of Kenner's Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure toy line. He's got kind of a bow star flute, and again he's got 2 more record discs. So a really cool figure in Punker Don. And then we've got Rappin' Mike, which also has a ton of fun features. Rappin' Mike's running the Flavor Flav clock around his neck. He's got the shades and the backwards cap. He's wearing a tank top and sneakers, and he's got chains and 4-finger rings. He's carrying a turntable and speakers. Honestly, Playmates cut no corners with these figures. There's not a reuse of a mold in sight, and I just love to see that sort of stuff. They could have cut corners here, they could have reused parts, I'm sure, but they haven't, and it shows when you look at them now through an adult's eyes. These figures are so cool. And accessories wise, Mike probably has the coolest of the band. He's got the DJ setup that goes around his neck. He's got this really interesting microphone nunchuck accessory, which is very cool. And in place of the record discs that the other Turtles have, he's got these little symbol shields, which are really cool as well. So all in all, just a fantastic figure. And when I look at this version that I have here, the decals of the clock and the turntable on his chest are in really nice condition. I've seen a lot of versions of this figure with those decals rubbed off, so definitely something to look out for if you're on the hunt for this figure. And also, that DJ setup, that also has a large decal there, as do the symbol shield. So just something to keep an eye out for if you are on the hunt for this figure. But with Rappin' Mike, Classic Rocker Leo, and Punker Don, as well as Heavy Metal Raph, which I already have complete in my collection, I've now got the band all together, at least as it relates to the 4 Turtles. Playmates also released a Rock and Roll Mondo Gecko in 1992, as well as a Rock and Roll Mutabus, which actually transforms into a stage and is a fantastic display piece for the Rock and Roll Turtles, as well as Rock and Roll Mondo Gecko. So I'll definitely be keeping an eye out for those pieces in the future, but still very, very cool to have all 4 Rock and Roll Turtles now complete in my collection. Now that's it for the complete figures, but I also picked up some additional TMNT pieces as part of a large bulk lot that I bought with Deano from Totally Taylor Retro Hunters. As we've done a few times now, we went Harvey's on a large lot that included some vintage TMNT figures, a turtle blimp, and also a stack of vintage TMNT accessories, and we got together over the holidays and drafted them out. I didn't film the full draft this time because it was a pretty random assortment, and it took Dean and I hours to first of all sort and identify everything and then part it out. And it was also kind of a lesson learnt, because while it was a decent deal based on value and the volume of parts that we got, it wasn't especially useful to my collection, at least in the short term, because like I said, it was a really random assortment and nothing was complete. But still, I managed to get 2 figures that I didn't already have in my collection, and 2 figures that have been very high on my wish list, the last 2 figures that I've needed to complete the Movie Stars Turtles. So firstly, I've got Movie Stars Mikey, unfortunately without any accessories or without the belt. This bulk lot that we bought, it was an eBay purchase. The photos just included the whole lot together without much detail. So, you know, when you make that kind of purchase, you're always taking a stab. But I thought chances are in a lot of this size, at least some of Mikey's accessories will be in there. Unfortunately not to be, but he's a starting point that I can now work to complete. And then I got the Movie Stars Raph, and the lot included 2 size as well as this accessory here. So very, very happy to have all 4 Movie Stars Turtles now in my collection. The other 2 are complete or near. Obviously some weapons to chase for these guys, but I love these Movie Stars figures from 1991. I love the texture, the pliability of their limbs, and the movie accuracy, at least by 1991 standards. So these Movie Star Turtles are really cool. Very happy to get both of those. And then I ended up with a stack of vintage weapons, maybe 70 or 80 vintage accessories, some of which have been used to help complete figures in my collection or get them a little bit closer to completion. But there's also lots of spares that I'll hang on to, and then I'll reunite with doubles and sell them on, obviously make a little bit of money to put back into the collection, which is always a fun process process. And there were also some accessories for some later wave rarer figures that I don't yet have in my collection. Like this is a good example. Check this out, a little Walker accessory for the 1994 Krang android body figure that I don't yet have in my collection. I'm not really chasing 1994 figures. I will happily make an exception for the Krang android body figure in the smaller 4 or 5 inch scale that came out that year. I think it's a really cool figure, and until I can find it, I'll just set this aside and hopefully maybe one day it'll come in handy. So very happy to include that in my draft picks. And like I've mentioned previously, when collecting the vintage TMNT toy line, those accessories are half the battle. So any opportunity to pick up a bulk lot of vintage TMNT accessories, I'm definitely going to take advantage. And beyond that, drafting out a bulk lot with a mate is always a lot of fun. So there you have it, my vintage TMNT collection continues to grow. For 1988, 1989 and 1990, I'm all done. For 91, I've got just 4 figures to go. For 1992, I've still got a ways to go. And beyond that, I'm just cherry picking. For 1993 onwards, I'm just making some rare exceptions where it's a figure that I really like, as is the case with the 1993 and hopefully maybe one day 1994 Universal Monster crossovers. But that'll do us for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you made it this far, you're a dead set champion. I hope to hear from you in the comments. As always, you're more than welcome to hit us up and say g'day on Instagram at Crusher Collects. I'll see you guys back soon for the next one, and until then, cheers.